The SEC back at it again with the superiority complex. Now, I've been a proponent of SEC bias for most of my life, but when I get new information, my opinion changes, hence why we shall discuss this with Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12. Here's what Shane Beamer had to say. Drake, who has not heard this quote, he is hearing this for the first time, the very first time. Shane Beamer said, quote, "Look, I've got great respect for other conferences," a great thing to start a sentence off with before you say we're just better than all of you, no matter what. "I've been to other conferences. I've been a part of the ACC. I've been a part of the Big 12. There's no question that there's good football everywhere. But when you just talk about the teams in this league and the teams you play week in and week out, it's different. And you look at the NFL draft every single year. It's 20 straight years that the SEC has led the nation in draft picks. People can say, well, it doesn't matter. Well, yeah, it does. We're playing the best players in the country. I've been a part of other leagues where you go into a stadium and there are 20,000 people in the stands and you're in a Power 4 conference. Not in this conference. Every road venue you go to, you're playing in front of 70, 80, 90, 100,000 people every single Saturday," end quote. Yeah, it sounds like we're just falling right back into the old habits, right? Drake is like, well, we're the SEC, so we have to just automatically be better, right? And I can appreciate that he's coached in other conferences, and I think he does believe at some level there's good football elsewhere. It's just not good enough to play with the SEC, despite that being contrary to, everything we saw play out in the 2024 college football season. Sure, should we just take it at face value and say, yeah, give the SEC as many auto bids as they want?
Stupid. Why did I agree to do this with you? It just makes me mad.
I don't know.
Every time I hear things, it just makes me angry. I had a boss one time, not even a boss, a coworker who thought he was my boss. And when I would open a radio show,
not me, just to be clear,
I would open a radio show that I was doing and say, this is the number one Baylor radio show in sports or something like that. Something along those lines. It's like, anyone who tells you they're number one probably isn't number one. Anybody who has to go in there and say, hey, we're the best ever. And look, the only exception to that is Locked On Big 12, America's number one Big 12 podcast. Everybody else who has to continue to tout themselves in their resume is doing it because one reason, that's because they have a deficiency somewhere they want you to ignore. That deficiency is being losses to Michigan from Alabama, South Carolina losing to Illinois. And guess who coaches South Carolina? The guy who sang this quote. How many draft picks has Illinois had compared to South Carolina the last 20 years? Probably less. Probably. Like South Carolina's had a lot more than Illinois, no doubt. Who won the actual head-to-head football matchup? What about Georgia and Notre Dame? Who's a better football team? Well, on paper, the Georgia Bulldogs. Who won that game on paper? The Georgia Bulldogs. Who won it when they actually played? Actually, that was Notre Dame. Tennessee losing to Ohio State, getting blown out. LSU losing to a bad USC team. Oklahoma State beating the middle of the road, like kind of bottom third team in the SEC. And guess what? Yes, Spencer?
USC went 2-0 against the SEC this year.
They did. They also beat Texas A&M, who people wanted in the college football playoff until like 2 or 3 weeks left in the season. I have been to SEC venues in football, growing up an Arkansas Razorback fan, where I thought, there are more LSU fans here than Arkansas fans. It is just not like fundamentally false, wrong, clickbait, big title, Locked On Big 12 style, everything Shane Beamer said in that little blurb that you gave me. The SEC is good, no doubt. No one's trying to take it away from you. The SEC is the best conference in college football. Guess what? We're actually giving it to you in the form of money. We're giving you more money. But now you have to come to a podium and tell me that we're so good, we're so bad. You know who does this? Head coaches whose teams won't make the NCAA tournament. That's who does this. They read this thing with their SID printed off at a podium and say, well, we have 3 quad 1 wins, and this team that's supposed to be automatic doesn't. That's who does this, not the big bad SEC. It feels as though they think the foundation is cracking a bit because they continue to tell us how good they are.
Yeah, it's giving some shades, the whole Lane Kiffin thing on Twitter of that and this and other quotes you see in here. It's giving me shades of Hugh Jackson as the Browns head coach. You got to remind people that you're the head coach. Like, maybe you shouldn't be. But we're not even trying. You and I both agree, Drake, if we're going top to bottom, number of conference championship capable teams with number of teams that can make a playoff run, yeah. I'll give you the SEC, but the point that I'm trying to articulate is the benefit of the doubt that has been given to this conference deservedly for the last 20 plus years. Based on what we have seen in the last couple of years in the new era of college football, it doesn't exist at the same level. You do not get to claim the same level. Well, we have more players going to the NFL draft. That's great. That's one of the reasons I'd still say, yeah, SEC is probably still the best league, but I don't look at them as the behemoth they used to be. South Carolina is a great example. And look, I also understand the other side of this argument that people will come at us with, which is, well, coaches are, of course, going to support their team and their conference and do all these sorts of things. That's good and fine. But that means that someone else needs to be there to present the other side of the argument, hence why we are having this discussion. Because going out there and saying, this piece was in South Carolina Gamecocks on SI from an interview that Shane Beamer did on 3, by the way. I forgot to mention that earlier. But I just look at stuff like this and say, man, how many NFL guys are on that South Carolina roster this past year compared to Illinois? What's the number, Drake? I mean, you've got some big-time recruits. Kennard and Dylan Stewart and Nick Harbor is a physical freak.
Like 5-1. We're probably talking 5-1 here.
Yeah, you probably are. I mean, long-term NFL draft prospects, Lenore Sellers probably has a better shot than Luke Altmaier does. Yeah. And I think Altmaier's a really solid player, but Sellers is a better athlete overall. He's probably got a slightly bigger arm, but Illinois won the football game. And so I just don't want us to slip back into this realm of hypotheticals. The SEC would do this team would do that. No, I watched this play out on the field. You can sell me on we've got more NFL guys we recruit at a higher level. That's an objective fact. But you know what else is objective? You lost a bunch of games on the field. The almighty SEC lost to Navy, lost to Illinois, lost to Michigan, lost to USC. In the same bowl season. I'm not buying this stuff when anyone from the SEC, I don't care who it is, I don't care if it's Paul Feinbaum or Greg Sankey or an SEC head coach, when this stuff puts out there, I just keep getting more annoyed at it because they're trying to sell me something that I know is not worth buying.
Who won the national championship this year?
Ohio State.
Big Ten. Last season?
Michigan.
Big Ten. Do you hear any Big Ten coaches getting on the podium saying, oh, look at us. We're the Big Ten.
That's a great point.
We're so different over here. We're really good. I've coached all across the country, and all of our venues are so... No, they're just winning national championships, man. That's just kind of what they're doing instead. And that seems like a little bit more fun than the SID hands you the paper and you're West Virginia going, well, we had the 32nd best strength of schedule in the country. And that's what the SEC is doing right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great point on the Big Ten. I can't remember the last time a coach felt the need to go out there and defend.
Not even a losing coach. Not even a guy who's like getting his, like, even Matt Rule has every right to be like, the Big Ten's the toughest conference in college football. That's why it's taking a little bit to build here. He won't even do that. He's just like, yeah, man, it was college football.
Yeah. It just reeks of insecurity. And I don't really know why. It's not as if these guys are not set financially. It's not as if they're not able to recruit anymore.
My last girlfriend said about me, too. What is that? Am I in the SEC? Am I in the SEC?
Drake 12, SEC. It's all one and the same. Oh, did I say that out loud? My goodness. Drake told.